News now begins in the west of the continent, where Nigeria's former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has denied allegations that he is behind the planned nationwide protest against hardship set to begin on August 1st. Now, in a statement on his X handle, Obi urged those making these allegations to focus their efforts and resources on assisting everyday Nigerians who are struggling with issues such as securing their next meal, obtaining education for their children, finding employment, and accessing adequate health care. He emphasized that the future of Nigeria hinges on addressing these urgent needs rather than perpetuating deceit and lies. Obi stated that his political journey has never been driven by desperation or personal gain, but by principles and a genuine care for his people. His remarks came in response to claims made by Bayo Ononuga, Special Advisor on Information and Strategy to President Bola Tinubu. In a lengthy tweet published on his X account on Saturday, the Special Advisor to the President accused Peter Obi and his supporters of spreading the hashtags, alleging that they're not Democrats but anarchists. Joining me on the news to discuss this further is Chief Spokesman Obi Datti, 2023 Presidential Campaign Organization, Dr. Yunusa Tanko. Hello, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining me at this time.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so what do you make of the presidency's allegation against Peter Obi and his supporters, claiming that they're the sponsors of the scheduled protest in August and labeling it a treasonable offense?
It's so laughable. I'll draw you back to a video that I saw of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2015, who was not even a candidate of the APC as at that time, was promoting, sponsoring, as allegedly mentioned by Shehu Sani on the Democratic Day, tagging the president as one of the people who sponsor and support protests, which is enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly Chapter 40 of the Constitution of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as 1999 as amended. Now, this same president using his aides now to accuse the individual who had the opportunity. In 2023, His Excellency Peter Obi ran for election in this country, and he has the popular support of the Nigerian youth. But yet, he did not protest or support any of his members to go onto the streets and create mayhem in the cause of the fact that he did not agree with the result of the election. That shows you a clear distinction of who Peter Obi as a person and then President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a person. With all due respect, these people are not tolerable. They don't have tolerance. I also remember in 2015, the same President Bola Ahmed Tinubu called President Jonathan a drunken fisherman. In fact, they made a casket of a coffin of him and then goes about the street calling him all kinds of names. Yet nobody arrested them. Nobody speaks ill about them.
All right, Doctor, you talked about, this administration being tolerable when it comes to protests. Now, given that, protest is a civic right of any citizen in a democratic country, why does it seem that this administration and the ruling party are averse to, protests and open criticism, especially considering that they previously, and just as you've actually said, capitalized on such momentum to gain power?
They are aware of their ineptitudeness and inefficiency, and they know that the Nigerian people are already tired of shenanigans and lies and concocted story. Look, today, Nigerians cannot eat 3 square meals as compared to 2015 when Jonathan was in position of power. Even taken together with Buhari, Bismarck performance during that particular era too. So Nigerians are tired of these particular concocted lies. Look, we cannot transport ourselves comfortably from Benin to Abuja. Neither can we transport ourselves comfortably from Abuja to Kaduna. And yet the presidency is spending humongous money in building a mansion for the vice president. and they are planning to buy a beautiful plane for the president as his well. They are spending humongous money in the areas of what we don't need, i.e., spending money on construction of road from Calabar to Lagos. Is that what Nigerian people need at the moment? The level of insecurity is so high that you are not sure of how you can survive within your own home because they come and pick you like a chicken in your own house. What about the issue of education? What about the issue of protection of the life and properties of every Nigerian? All of this has come together to frustrate every Nigerian to a point. So they are aware of all of these particular challenges. And even though they also know that even though the court has already pronounced them as the president and the vice president, as the case may be, they know that there was level of electoral fraud that took place. So all of these, they are afraid. But they don't need to be afraid. All they needed to do is that already they have the opportunity, do the right thing for the benefit of the Nigerian people, and I'm sure the Nigerian people will have come in clean and support this particular government. But the fact is that they kept on making mistake upon mistake because they know...
Doctor. Now, speaking of the challenges that Nigerians are facing, hence the scheduled protest, we'd love to know your thoughts on the protest that has been titled Save Nigeria Rally that's scheduled from August 1st to 15, 2024. That's suggested by Bayo Ononuga.
Well, as far as we are concerned, we are Democrats, and we will follow the tenets of democracy. And the tenets of democracy clearly stipulate in Chapter 40, Section 40 of the Constitution, freedom of association, freedom to express your view. Freedom to express your view in such a way that it will be seen within the ambience of the law. And these are some of the things that they had done when they were opposition. And they used these particular sections of the Constitution. So what they ought to have done is to provide guide and protect these particular people who want to go on protest. It is their inalienable right. It's a democratic right for them to go on protest if they so wish. And if the government of the day is trying to avert that particular position that they find themselves, all they need to do is take an actionable position, not concocted stories and propagandas and lie and trying to pin issues on Peter Obi. Peter Obi is not your problem at all. The problem that they have within their own party itself and the fund of information that they dish out to Nigerian people would not fulfilling it. So therefore, we will have advised them to say we are taking an actionable plan like number one, we are bringing down the prices of petroleum from 800 naira to 100 naira. We are making sure that we involve in agriculture and making sure that people get enough fertilizer, enough tractors so that they can produce. Because once you are not producing as a country, of course, you will be subjected to hardship. But if you produce and it's comfortable, all of these particular challenges will have fizzled out. So my advice to them is that they should protect those who want to go on this demonstration and give them a guide so that there will not be any mayhem. But if they decide to stop them and trying to guard them, they will get things that they do not expect because Nigerians are really tired.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tanko, for speaking to us on this.
Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria.
Well, let's also tell you that some Nigerians have tasked the nation's lawmakers to come out clean on how their donated salaries will be applied to tackle the current hardship affecting citizens. This followed the announcement by members of parliament from the House of Representatives who say they are donating half of their salaries for the next 6 months to help tackle the current food crisis affecting citizens. Idong Joseph reports.
For us to make sacrifices with our salary.
The announcement of the deduction of about 300,000 naira each from the salaries of about 360 lawmakers from the House of Representatives for the next 6 months had followed an appeal for organizers of a planned nationwide protest, which is scheduled to start from August the 1st, to shelve their plans. The protest is expected to get government's attention on the increased hardship being faced by citizens in the last 1 year.
The people of Nigeria, your crying is right. Your complaint of hardship is right. But is the solution found in carrying placard and lining the streets?
You have right to protest, our young men, but the nation first. We should be patriotic, we should be nationalists.
Acknowledging the concerns of the proponents of the proposed protest, lawmakers appealed for calm, urging aggrieved citizens to allow government's policies to manifest and tackle current hardship. They expressed confidence that the policies will get the nation's economy back on track.
We are appealing to our young men to give the government the benefit of the doubt.
I'm moving that we amend that prayer to include that members sacrifice maybe 50% of our salary.
With the gesture by the lawmakers being applauded by many citizens, they however raised concerns on how the monies donated will be delivered to those who need the support.
Are they going to be deducted at source, or each person would actually release this upon payment to the central account that will be dedicated for this purpose, and then that same transmitted to appropriate government office?
Some members of parliament, including several citizens, are also urging those in the executive arm of government to follow suit.
Just now, we cut our salaries. Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to executive to do so. From Mr. President to Vice President to ministers to chief executive officers.
We must all come together to build a more formidable Nigeria and to ask the government of the day to look into issues that have been driving so many agitations in this country.
As a country, if we want to succeed, there is the need to pay a lot of attention to the state governments as to how they apply the resources of the people.
The lawmakers are also calling for dialogue with the proponents of the protest, saying if the situation is not properly managed, the protest can be hijacked by hoodlums and miscreants and lead to the destruction of properties of many innocent citizens, as was witnessed in 2020. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Thank you, Idong, for that report. Now, for several years, the Umuahia-Ikotekpene Road has been in a bad state with little attention given to it by the federal government. All the promises to get the road fixed by various administrations failed until recently when a construction firm was seen on the road. News Central's Chingwe Ugele has details.
It is the shortest route to Akwa Ibom State from Umuahia, Abia State capital, but has been in a deplorable condition for as long as many commuters can remember, yet the longest and most frustrating route. Any journey which takes motorists through this route must have been one that leaves them with no choice. Recently, reconstruction work started on the road at various sections, giving hope to road users that their woes on the road would soon be over.
It's been over 3 months since the construction firm in charge of this road got to this point, yet we are still where we are right now.
There are no explanations on what might have led to the suspension of work on the road, but whatever caused it is definitely taking its toll on commuters.
What we are praying is that whatsoever that they know that they will do, let them come and do it fast so that the people will enjoy and also praise them on what they have done so far.
The road is so bad that, and then it's just out of negligence and then out of neglect. It's not that the resource is not there to fix it, but then I can't really say who should have done what should be done, but the road is terrible. It's so bad. In fact, some drivers have stopped flying this route.
All the previous palliative measures carried out by the federal and state governments on the road to ease movements only provided temporary succor. Efforts to get the federal government to fix the road began many years ago through the former federal legislators from Abia Central Senatorial Zone, but only got a little attention. In 2015, this was the state of the road, and by 2017, The Federal Road Maintenance Agency announced commencement of repairs on the same road. In this 2024, this is the state of the road.
When the government work this road should be okay so that people will enjoy the road. We thought that maybe by now the road was supposed to be completed, but until now the road is still bad.
The reconstruction of this Umuahia Ikotepene road has taken so many years. But this time around, the citizens are believing that the reconstruction work will actually become something that will come to an end someday.
For the road users, it does not matter whose responsibility it is to reconstruct the road, as all they care about is for the road to be fixed. In Umuahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
The Nigerian Army has reiterated its warning to civilians against wearing military camouflage, emphasizing that it remains illegal. Major General Onyema Nwachukwu, Director of Army Public Relations, stated on Sunday that the ban is in place because terrorists and imposters often misuse military camouflage. Nwachukwu highlighted that only personnel of the Armed Forces of Nigeria and the Nigerian Police Force are legally permitted to wear military camouflage. He assured that the Nigerian Army remains committed to upholding the law and ensuring that safety and security of all citizens. Now, addressing a trending video showing a soldier molesting a civilian wearing desert camouflage, Nwachukwu clarified that the incident occurred in 2021 and that the soldier involved had been appropriately disciplined. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. In Nigeria today, undergraduates face puzzling challenges in deciding what career path to pursue after graduating. For young graduates, the task of learning new skills even after years in school is daunting. News Central's Chidinma Ona gives more details in this report.
Nigeria's educational system has always been a part of crucial conversations in official and unofficial affairs. Among young Nigerians, it has been a challenge coping with cumbersome curriculums in school and coming out to face a different reality.
People think English is just for teaching. You just come out of school and start teaching. And to get jobs like that, I don't know, it's very, very low. But the reason why I'm actually studying English is because I want to go into journalism. But looking at it now, with the way the whole thing in the country is going, I don't know. I don't even know if I should take that path or I should just focus on what I'm doing presently.
Based on what I study now, I don't think Nigeria is favorable in my course, so the best thing for me is to jackpot and get out of this country. I think, yeah.
Currently, yeah, I don't feel like this whole system engineering stuff is going to take me far with the way the country is going.
To many fresh graduates in Nigeria, the labor market has been unfavorable as they have to yet again equip themselves with a skill entirely different from what they studied in school. The concern becomes how the government will bridge the gap by upskilling students before leaving school.
The Nigerian labor market right now is very, very tough. And I believe schools should do better in including that into their curriculum. So basically, they are not training youth for the future. So there's a perception that, oh, you go to school, you read law, from law. For example, you read law, from law you become a lawyer, and there's no provision for what if there are no jobs as a lawyer. What do you do? The curriculum in schools should be tailored and done for when I leave school as a student, I should be able to set up myself and not wait for government or private bodies to employ me.
Another means to create a more flexible curriculum for students is taking advantage of what today's technology offers.
As a country, I think Nigeria needs technology to solve a lot of our societal problems, to be able to also, gain access to education at the highest quality. The beauty of technology is that it can democratize education, which means that you can reach millions of people with education. Virtual teaching now is the norm in most courses. So technology, I think, is at the heart of our development as a nation.
As we tackle the problem of rigid tertiary education curriculum, more young graduates should equip themselves with beneficial skills, as learning never stops. In Lagos for News Central, Chidinma Ona.
A humanitarian organization in partnership with Lagos State government agencies, Lagos State Parks and Gardens Agencies, LASPARC, and Lagos State Coconut Development Authority, LASCODA, has moved to address coastal erosion by planting 10,000 seedlings of coconut between 2024 to 2025, starting with 1,000 plants in Okunwaja on Sunday. This comes few days after the commemoration of the Lagos State Tree Planting Day. News Central's Bettina Ngweli reports.
This initiative is aimed at achieving a safer and cleaner environment by planting 10,000 seedlings of coconut, mango, and other related crops that have economic, health, and environmental benefits.
Lagos State has 180-kilometer coastline, and you recall that this coastline is suffering from a lot of vagaries of oceans. We have to know of coastal erosion, ocean storm, and the rest. And it's only coconut that can be the shield between the sea and the land. So that's why we are concentrating more effort in coconut planting.
Global warming we have experienced in the last 3 years is alarming. You heard one of our speakers told us that the UN Secretary General declared last year that this is an emergency. And conscious of the fact that we are living in a world that is changing on a daily basis because of our actions as human beings, we need to conscientize the world, and we are commemorating this with planting of 1,000 trees, commemorate our action plan against the degradation of the environment.
Planting of trees is one of the easiest and most sustainable ways to positively affect the environment. Planting more trees will contribute to global reforestation efforts, restoring lost forests, repairing damaged ecosystems, and mitigating the impact of climate change.
Anybody who doesn't appreciate the value of the trees, try holding your breath for just 5 minutes. Very, very difficult, if not absolutely impossible, because the trees are giving you your most essential commodity, and that's the oxygen. But they're not only just doing that. They're stabilizing the soil. The root zone of the trees stabilizes the soil, reduces erosion. And they're not just doing that, particularly because these are coconut trees.
Humans, animals, and the environment depend upon trees for survival. Afforestation is therefore essential to maintain balance and an optimally functional ecosystem. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Ngweli.
President Bola Tinubu on Sunday reeled out the achievement of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to African leaders. He spoke in Accra, the Ghanaian capital, on Sunday, while presenting the achievements of ECOWAS in the past year at the 6th mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union. Detailing the efforts on the humanitarian and social development front, President Tinubu said ECOWAS has allocated $9 million to assist persons of concern, including refugees, internally displaced persons, and asylum seekers. He said the frontline member states in the fight against terrorism have also been supported with USD, that's $4 million United States dollars, under the ECOWAS counter-terrorism humanitarian response.
Peace, security, and governance. I wish to report that until January 2024, the ECOWAS region continued its engagement with the four countries in transition, namely Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, and Niger, with a view to facilitating their return to constitutional order. They give programs, but they have not been able to meet this program. While engagement with Guinea continues, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have announced their intention to leave ECOWAS. We will continue to engage these three countries with the view to maintaining immunity.
Still in the West, severe flooding in Liberia has led a group of senators to propose relocating the capital city away from overcrowded and poorly managed Monrovia, a suggestion met with a mixture of enthusiasm and hesitancy in the West African country. The National Disaster Management Agency said flash floods triggered by torrential rains between the end of June and early July left nearly 50,000 Liberians in urgent need. The flood-prone capital was particularly badly hit, owing in part to overpopulation, a poor sewage system, and a lack of building regulation. In the east of the continent, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has warned protesters in a televised address that their planned protest will not be tolerated and that they will be playing with fire if they go ahead with plans to stage an anti-corruption march to Parliament on Tuesday. Young Ugandans have been organizing the march on social media to demand an end to corruption in government. The Young Ugandans' protest is inspired by their counterparts in neighboring Kenya who organized mass demonstrations that forced President William Ruto to drop plans to increase taxes. The protests have since morphed into calls for his resignation. Museveni also accused some of the protest organizers of always working with foreigners to cause chaos in Uganda. Meanwhile, the Ugandan police had earlier announced that they had refused to give permission for the march to take place. However, the main protest leaders said that they would go ahead with it. To discuss this, I am joined by Executive Director, Human Rights Network for Journalists, Uganda, Robert Sempala. Hello, Robert. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell us, how are the citizens reacting to the president's remarks about the planned protest, and do you foresee the protest going on?
Yeah, the citizens are between a mixture of commitment and resignation because of certainly the directive by the police that this is not a sanctioned activity. And Parliament is a sacrosanct place. It has a very high security. People are still in between participating or not participating. But there is a very high need for people to participate because the levels of corruption are very skyrocketing. And the president has been consistently talking about it lately. Parliament has been talking about it lately. And some legislators are mobilizing some signatures to, discuss corruption at full length. So it is something that is really a mobilizing area for many Ugandans.
So how do you assess the level of government repression and violence that protesters may face given the president's warning?
Yeah, going by the recent past, there's been a lot of brutality and militarization of civic actions by different people, especially the citizens. And government has failed to draw a very clear dichotomy between civic demonstrations and political opposition activities. So both have been met with the same force, and as such, it's very, very difficult to know how people are going to react. But all I know is that there's been a high deployment of the military in the capital, Kampala, and in the outskirts of Kampala. And this is by the military, since the police has already given a directive that this is not an allowed activity. We are likely to see a highly deployed capital, and it's going to be extremely difficult for people to carry on with this activity.
All right, now, Robert, my next question has to do with government repression, and this is something that we journalists have actually protested against. That's gagging the media. What is your assessment of the level of press freedom in Uganda, and how do you think that it may impact journalists' ability to report on the protests?
Yeah, there's been a very high level of self-censorship within the mainstream media, and a lot of activity has been happening in the social media spaces. So we're likely to see the same happening, and this is also orchestrated by mainly the owners who have, in the recent past, had to contend with the president's directive to take away all government advertisements and give them to the national broadcaster UBC. So that, in a way, has checked the media because they know how much it can cost them if they are running media houses without government advertisements. So they are trying to behave, and a lot of critical discussions have not come through the mainstream media. So we are not really seeing the mainstream media taking this on and reporting it to full length, given the brutality that many journalists have faced covering such events, and also the fact that this has been called by the ordinary citizens and media. The media is likely
could this, Robert, could this actually be that there might be concerns, about self-censorship or bias in the coverage?
Yeah, there's a lot of self-censorship. This certainly will play out because government looks at every forces of this nature has a political position. So certain media houses have learned how to act to play safe, but also the fact that many media houses are owned by government-leaning individuals, either in government, in politics, or in business. So they are likely not to participate a lot in giving detailed coverage to activities that are looked at as anti-government, or that the police has said they're a no-go zone.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Robert, for taking time out to speak to us on this. Now, on World Wrap, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris praises President Joe Biden's patriotic decision not to seek re-election and vows to win the Democratic nomination and defeat Donald Trump. Kamala added that Biden stepping down was an act of patriotism, which he was known for. Shortly after Biden stepped aside, he firmly endorsed Harris, who would make history as the nation's first Black and South Asian woman to become a major party presidential nominee. Other endorsements followed from former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, the first major female presidential nominee, and prominent U.S. senators, a wide swath of House of Representatives, and members of the influential Congressional Black Caucus. But away from that, moving on, a former Vietnamese property and aviation tycoon charged with $146 million in fraud and stock market manipulation went on trial in Hanoi Monday, the latest corruption case targeting the communist country's business elite. Trinh Van Kiet, who owned a luxury resort, golf courses, and an airline, had nearly $2 billion in stock market wealth before his arrest. The trial comes just days after the death of former Communist Party of Vietnam leader Nguyen Phu Trong, who is credited with spearheading a crackdown on graft at the highest levels. Tycoon Kiet is accused of illegally pocketing more than $146 million between 2017 and 2022. Now let's move to business, where the value of transactions on the floor of the Nigerian Exchange Limited on Friday advanced by 9.98% compared to the previous session, closing the week on a positive note. Specifically, 603.88 million shares valued at 9.16 billion naira were exchanged in 9,988 deals compared to 392.80 million shares valued at 8.33 billion naira traded in 9,013 deals recorded on Thursday. As a result, investors gained 20 billion naira or 0.04%, with market capitalization closing at 56.928 trillion naira, up from 56.908 trillion naira. I'll still talking business, and joining me on the news to speak on the NGX review and the market capitalization that closed at 56.928 trillion naira from 56.908 trillion naira is Oyindamola Oyenuga, investment research analyst, Meristem Securities Limited. Thank you so much for joining us, Oyindamola.
Thank you for having me.
All right, please go ahead and tell us which of the equities led to the rally on Friday.
Okay, so basically, I mean, we know that market performed positively last week, following like 2 consecutive weeks of a decline, and this was basically bolstered by stocks like UCAP, O&O, Cotex. That's on a week-on-week basis. But if you look at Friday's performance, I mean, we saw that market was also up by 0.04%, and that was largely due to increased buying activity from UCAP, as well as custodian, AfriProd, and even sovereign insurance. For UCAP, we saw market reaction to, the company's performance, their Q2 performance, the impressive Q2 performance, and also the dividend declaration, and also the significant or the very attractive dividend declaration, and also, the bonus issue that was declared. So we saw how that, contributed to the rally of the NGX on Friday.
All right, but why has the Nigerian Exchange Limited delisted the shares of Niger Insurance PLC, Resort Savings and Loans PLC, and also RAC Unity Petroleum PLC from its facilities?
Okay, I mean, looking at this development, we see that it is actually, this directive is largely in line with the NGX, their provisions. That's it's called the rule book of exchange of the NGX, and basically what it basically states is that for a stock that hasn't been traded or hasn't really garnered a lot of investors' attraction over a long period of time, also for stocks that have been acquired by another company, or for a stock that fails to meet certain compliance agreements with the NGX, companies or tickers that fall into this category before that delisted. And in the case of Niger Insurance, I mean, looking back, it has been for some time now. The company has really not been compliant with regulatory stipulations. It hasn't really been with regards, filing of its annual reports and all of that. And even looking back at as far back as I think 2002. Also, the operating license of this company was revoked, similarly to Report Savings and Loan Limited. That was also operating license was revoked by the CBN. And lastly, for the last company, that's RAC Unity and Petroleum PLC. Last year, it's concluded its liquidation process, which just makes the case for NGX to delist these companies from the exchange.
So then, talking about the delisting now, what happens to the shareholders of these firms? Do they get anything?
So basically, I think what we are going to see is that shareholders who are unable to sell their shares prior to this delisting would be that maybe the company comes up with a private arrangement that's an off-market arrangement with these shareholders, such that they buy back the shares from existing shareholders.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Oyindamola, for your time, and it's a pleasure to have you as usual.
Thank you.
In sports, ahead of the 2024-2025 season of the CAF Interclub competitions, the African Soccer Governing Body has decided to give the participating clubs an extension for the registration of players. The date of the registration of players for the first preliminary round ended last Thursday. But the football body on Sunday announced the extension to the date. Clubs now have until Thursday, 25th of July as the deadline. The Nigerian clubs Rangers International, Remo Stars and El Kanemi Warriors are involved in the first preliminary round. Serbia defeated Nigeria's senior women's basketball team D Tigers, a second consecutive warm-up game in Belgrade. Now, the African champions lost 62-70 points to the 10th ranked country in the FIBA World Ranking. The Nigerian team will play their final warm-up game against Japan on July 24th in Lille, France, before the start of the basketball event at the Olympics. Nigeria faces a tough battle against Canada, Australia, and host France in Group B. Still talking sports, the squad numbers of Nigeria's Super Falcons players in the 2024 Olympics Games have been released. African most decorated and Falcons forward Asisat Oshoala will wear the number 8 jersey. Goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie will put on number 16 jersey, while Christy Uchebe from Benefica will don the prestigious number 10 shirt. Chukwuononye McLean's plays in Russia, has been assigned number 9, while Nicole Payne takes over the number 4 jersey previously worn by the injured Ashley Plumpter. Tony Payne retains her number 7 and Captain Rashidat Ajibade sticks with number 15. Other numbers include Osinachi Ohale, number 3, Tosin Demehing, 14, Jennifer Echegini, 11, and Uchenna Kanu, 12. The Super Falcons will kick off their campaign against Brazil in Stade Bordeaux on Thursday. They will also face world champions Spain and Japan in their group matches. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here's another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Peter Obi tells presidency to spread relief to hungry Nigerians and not lies. We also told you that Uganda's President Museveni says protest organizers playing with fire. You also heard that VP Harris pledges to win nomination as Joe Biden withdraws from U.S. presidential race. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen Usman.